Paul, yesterday the club announced the guidelines in terms of entry to the Amex, particularly in relation to the COVID government guidelines. Can you just give us some background on the club's thinking behind that?
Well, the first and most important thing is that we're going to be delighted to have this stadium full again. That for us has been a very difficult 15-16 months without fans, and I know it has been for the fans, so to get everyone back is really important. But the most important thing when they do come back is that they're safe, and we've got a responsibility to try and keep people as safe as possible, and that includes our own staff. And so what we've done is we've put in measures that we anticipate we will be required to do from the 1st of October. We've only got 4 matches between now and the 1st of October at home, so we need to really work on the system, work on the procedures, and we want to make it as smooth and as quick as possible for people. But inevitably, when we're checking extra procedures such as photo ID, such as COVID passes, such as lateral flow tests, as well as tickets, there's going to be some delays, and therefore we're asking people to come early, be patient, respect our staff, and be as ready as they can be by reading all of the instructions that we've sent out so that we can get them into the stadium as quickly and as safely as possible.
And just how important is it, obviously, to comply with these rules in order to keep the stadium at full capacity?
Well, that's the most important thing. What we don't want are a series of localised outbreaks that are traced back to football stadiums or major events. So we're trying our very best. It's not easy. It's not something that we particularly want to be doing. We want people to come here and enjoy a stress-free day, but we're doing our best to try and make sure that we can keep everyone safe, and that includes, as I said before, our staff, who we require on a match day. If we haven't got our staff, we can't open the stadium, supporters can't come back to matches. So we need to do things that keep everyone safe, and then hopefully throughout the season, as this virus becomes less and less of a factor in our lives, we hope, then hopefully some of those restrictions will start to move away again. But for the time being, we've got to comply. We need to comply to keep our stadium full and to keep people coming back to watch football.
There's a little bit of confusion around some of our fans who travel in from abroad. Can you expand on what they need to do to obviously prove their COVID status? Because some of them might not have NHS double vaccines.
No, we understand that. First of all, they should follow whatever the guidelines are on the government website, and then ultimately, in the worst case, they can take a lateral flow test on the day of the game or before the game, and providing they can actually bring evidence of a negative result, then that will be sufficient, certainly until the 1st of October at least, for them to be able to come into our matches.
So just to be clear on that, that's the NHS test you pick up in a chemist.
Free of charge.
Register online.
Get your result back on an email with your name on it, and then we can actually match that to your ID. That will get you through the first perimeter checkpoint, and then they can move up to the turnstiles.
And I guess it's fine to have a printed copy of that email, show it on your smartphone, whatever that might be.
Providing you can actually show us your name on that negative lateral flow or the COVID pass against your ID, then you're going to be allowed through the checkpoint over to the perimeter, into the turnstile, and then into the stadium.
And I guess the advice with the COVID pass is important too, because of mobile phone signal around the Amex. So
the best advice we can give is download it to your Apple or Google wallet. Carry a paper copy if you really are concerned about the mobile phone signal. But in order to get the queues to move as quickly as possible, we just need people to be prepared, and prepared for every eventuality.
So preparation is key. Another thing I wanted to touch on was just with the ID side of things. So obviously it's very clear the ID needs to match the COVID test, but also does that need to match the ticket when you show it? Will that be checked at the turnstile?
In an ideal world, your ID should match everything you're carrying, but we also know there are going to be some 1901 club members who are guests and won't have their name on their ticket necessarily, or some match ticket buyers who might not have their name. So again, providing initially the COVID checks match up to the name on the ID, then of course the ticket will be dealt with at the turnstile, and we can deal with that then. It's always been the case that you've needed to have ID available if required to produce it for any match. It's not just in a COVID environment, it's just in this particular environment we've got an extra responsibility to keep people as safe as possible, and that means making sure that the COVID pass or the lateral flow negative test does actually match up to the person that's holding it. That's the most important thing at this stage.
And I guess also if somebody cannot attend because they're self-isolating, they get pinged, whatever it might be, they've got that option to forward on tickets now this season that the club have introduced.
They've got that option. We've tried to make it as flexible as possible. We know with where we are and the circumstances we're facing, we're not going to be able to please everyone. We understand that. We understand people have got reservations about vaccines, they've got reservations about photo ID. We understand all of that. But we've got to try and keep as many people safe as we can, for as long as we can, to keep our business flourishing, to bring fans back, help them enjoy the game again. But we've also got a responsibility for our staff safety and well-being as well. So we're taking all reasonable measures to try and match all of those things together. Get people back to the stadiums, keep people in the stadiums, but also keep everyone safe.
And just a word on masks. Obviously, it seems to be quite divisive, as everything seems to be these days. But people don't need to wear them once they're in their seat, or if they're eating or drinking, or outside. But they will need to wear them in the internal concourse areas, and we're strongly recommending that you wear them when travelling to and from the game on public transport.
Yeah, we've tried to sort of come up with a catchphrase to try and make it easy for people. It's difficult, but if you're on the move, wear your mask. If you're in a congested area, inside or outside, wear your mask. If you're sitting watching the game, if you're eating or drinking, if you're standing out in the open air and there are not lots of people around you, then clearly you're going to be fine. But again, it's about personal responsibility and respect for others. And what we're trying to do here is not be authoritarian in any way. We're just trying to keep people safe. And I think that's a reasonable request, given that we've got a huge responsibility in this stadium for 30,000 people.
And finally, just a word on the parking situation. I know it's created a bit of a headache for the ops team here. Bennett's Field no longer available to the club. Can you just give us a little update on that and what that means for everybody?
Yeah, it's disappointing. It means that we're not able to offer seasonal parking as we had hoped to and people have become used to. We will still be offering match day parking. We will still be operating our park and ride sites, which are a good alternative for those people that do need to use their cars. And we'll continue to look at other sites in and around the area where perhaps we can increase our capacity, through the season. It's very frustrating and we're sorry for the inconvenience, but it is out of our control.